I hope it's okay if I speak in English. My Spanish is very limited. I studied Spanish at school until I was 16 years old, so I remember hola, ¿qué tal? That's about it. So thank you for having me here. Very excited to talk here. The first time I've had the chance to speak with you all. And I have a lot of different slides that I can go through. But I think the big thing that I would like to get across is just how exciting and how amazing and how optimistic we should all be about market research. Despite the figures that we've just seen, which are, of course, I see a lot of sad faces. It's disappointing. However, there's lots for us to celebrate, lots for us to be excited by. I look around the room, I can't see all of you at the back because of the bright light shining, but I see Daniel, Ignacio, Foreman. I see some incredible entrepreneurs, and that gives me huge hope when I see these individuals out at the international conferences representing Spain, talking about what quality there is in our industry. And I think that's fantastic. I think we should all be very optimistic about that. I also, although I didn't understand all of what I saw before, I saw on some of Daniel's slides, the challenges with trust, and I heard some discussions around online, and I saw the opportunity with big data. And I know from personal experience, Daniel referenced Asia, for example. I know that when our clients are looking at new geographies or they're considering new opportunities around big data, around co-creation and semi-structured information, they need guidance. They need people who know the craft of research, who know best practice, who know best methodologies. And our clients, as they look for their own opportunity for growth, whether that is, for example, in Latin America, they look for the expertise which exists in this room and exists in this industry. So we're in a really, really good position to capitalise on this, if only we can continue to be optimistic and keep our minds open and embrace these opportunities. So I think the opportunities are all around us. I'll go through some of my slides nonetheless. So far we've had quite a focus on Spain. When I think about opportunities, I'd just like to ask some questions, because a lot of you have been sitting there quietly. Who has a mobile phone? Wave them at me if you have them. Let's see what people have. So we have iOS, Android, Blackberries, and some old phones too. Nobody waved a tablet there. That's interesting. Nobody waved a tablet computer. There's some. Yeah. So for some people, that's what a mobile phone is as well. It's these, very smart devices. Now, also, a quick raise of hands if you've ever used Google. Okay, not everybody has used Google. Or are you on Facebook? Yeah, LinkedIn. Okay, so there, mobile, social media, big data, these are all big areas that represent an opportunity for market research. And again, when I say that clients are looking for guidance, clients, all clients, big clients in Europe, in Latin America, in Asia, they want guidance on how best to mine social media, how best to use mobile. They want to make sense of these new opportunities whilst respecting the tradition and the rigour of great research on what made our industry great. So I think there are areas that, if we can all take something away, to have a think about what you do with mobile, what you do with social media, how best to embrace the opportunities from Google consumer surveys, and of course, the discussion around online. I saw some of the questions on Twitter, and it's great that people are challenging sometimes the length of an online survey, because what clients are demanding as well is great quality, demanding data that they can trust, and if you can give them guidance on how best to do online, how to make that relevant and representative through small surveys or sometimes through long surveys, That's great, but that's what the clients need. Globally, that's what clients are asking for advice on best practice. I'm also going to quote some data from the Global Market Research report that Daniel's quoted. And I won't go through in huge amounts of detail. So I'm conscious also that people want copy. You can see here, globally, the industry is up. And you can see here where the increases are and where the decreases are. You see also references that there's strong performances in Asia Pacific and Latin America. You see as well that there's some small declines, and we've also now for the first time been able to break out the detail around Africa and Middle East. Now I know last week in an ESOMAR capacity I sat with Unilever in London looking at their research and development budgets for next year, and their budgets are remaining the same. So this year their budgets are the same as last year, but the way they're reshaping their budgets, they're spending more in these regions, in Asia and Latin America. Not surprisingly, and they're beginning to look at Africa. Now that money is coming from North America and from Europe, so they're taking some of that budget and they're putting it in new areas. Now I know as a UK, as an English citizen, that it's easy for me to do business in Asia, and that it's just part of the culture. The language and the English influence makes it easy for an English business person to work there. And I also know, very generally, that it's easier to do business in Latin America if you speak the language and you have that connection. And so I know, for example, that when Unilever are commissioning research in Asia, they trust people like me to help ensure that the work they're doing in other markets that they're commissioning from London is good, is to the quality they expect. The same is true also for people commissioning from the Unilever headquarters for work in Latin America. They need people that can understand and can interpret that market for them, whilst providing them with the quality and the reassurance that they're used to. So there, very simply, I caught some of that discussion happening. There, I think, is an opportunity when we can keep our ears open and our minds open for people to make the most of these growth trends in Latin America. Okay. So I'm sure we would all like to see Spain on this list. And that's the challenge, maybe. Maybe the next time you have an ESOMAR president here, let's have Spain in this top 10. And you see the detail. Europe is obviously big, China and Japan growing. Brazil has jumped up, which is fantastic. And you see the overall picture of the top 10. Again, we've shared some of this information already. Here's it expressed in a different format. How is that research broken out? Daniel compared Spain with the rest of the world on. Somebody's done this wrong. I spotted it. That should be quantitative, and the 17 should be qualitative. This graph looks correct there. So that's good, yeah. So, as we saw, big difference in the global view on online relative to the Spain view of that. And of course, when I go to some of the other markets, I go to South Africa, for example, online is tiny and face-to-face is huge. So this is it's a global average, and it doesn't clearly reflect the local market. So an interesting comparison to look at where are the large online markets. So this is a proportion of total spend in the market that is online, and then where are the large face-to-face. And you see some big contrasts in Bolivia, Vietnam, Bangladesh, almost 2/3 of the research in that market is face-to-face. And you look at places like Bulgaria, Japan and Sweden, and almost half, beginning to approach half, is online. So not so long ago, Bulgaria, Japan and Sweden were all face-to-face. So clearly there is demand to adopt and embrace online, because so much of our interactions, a lot of you raised your hand for Facebook and LinkedIn, so many of our interactions today are done through online. So clearly, if research is relevant, it has to embrace online. Again, you've seen a lot of data, so I won't spend long on these slides. You see here that broadly, Europe, there's been a little bit of movement, but the net growth, there's been some declines and a few increases. So we've netted out, around about the same area for the last 5 years. And clearly this is a European average, so there are some winners and also some declines. What's ESOMAR doing? Well, a lot in all regions, but within Europe, there's a lot of work that we do lobbying with the European Union. That's reflected in all of these different areas, and much more. But principally, what we are trying to do is to ensure that, as an industry, we're big on self-regulation and on ensuring that what we do is to the most rigorous and the highest standards. So, we know there's an ESOMAR ICT global code. A huge amount of effort is put in by ESOMAR to ensure that the research we're doing is compliant and in line with that. And obviously, as we consider online, we consider mobile, big data, it's important that we ensure that those new areas can fit in and sit consistent with the code. We do a lot of activities in Europe. We have an event later this year in Valencia, our qualitative conference. We've been to Valencia before a few times, and I've seen the program for that. It looks very good. There's a healthy mix of very traditional, very psychology-based scientific research, but there's also new qualitative opportunities, whether that's online communities or people using video and the social media principles, so unstructured data there. So obviously, if you can, I would thoroughly recommend that. The future of mobility has been postponed, so that's no longer back-to-back with qualitative. That will be, I think, at the next automotive event next year. And then a shout out to some other conferences that we're having next year in Europe. Next year's Congress, Daniel mentioned our Congress in Istanbul, which was last week. Next year's Congress is going to be in Nice, in France. So I'd expect there to have a more European thrust to the content of the conference. It's a global event, but we always see it localized depending on where the location is. Okay, a few words on Asia Pacific. Not surprisingly, Asia, we read about it in all our newspapers. There's a huge amount of growth. It is no longer the fastest growing region. We'll come on to that shortly. And we've seen some incredible change in places like Myanmar, which is now open. And for any of you who were there, you will remember. For those who weren't, we had our Asia Pacific conference earlier this year in Vietnam, and there was a Myanmar case study with Coca-Cola and TLS, and they talked about just the incredible learnings for setting up a research project and launching a soft drink in a completely new market where no rules existed in the way we understand them, and everything from signing forms to hiring staff to doing interviews was amazing. It was really, really humbling and incredible to learn how starting in a completely new market is so different. And it's great as well to spend time with those people from Myanmar. We had some at the recent Congress, in just how the world is just a place of opportunity for them now. It's incredible. They just see huge opportunity because now a lot of the world's eyes are on their region, on their country, and it's incredible. They're there to guide and to encourage and to provide trust for clients who are looking to invest in that region. So shape of North America, you see again, not much change. Small decline in Canada, increase in the US. The US is such a huge market that it's rare to see any significant growth. It is incremental growth. Latin America, it's come up a couple of times. So I mentioned that Asia Pacific lost the title of fastest growing region. That, of course, has gone to Latin America. And so the turnover in this region has increased, it's risen. You see that, that's grown primarily through Brazil and Argentina. Brazil is very clearly the largest region for market research in Latin America. And of course, that's where there's a huge amount of clients, a huge amount of, our clients have their centers there. And we see this reflected as well in things like the ESOMAR Congress. We see more and more papers from Brazil. We see case studies from Latin America. Every 2 years, we hold an event in Latin America. Next year, we're going to be in Buenos Aires. We have some people in the room. That NetQuest are our Latin American partner for that. We're on the program committee curating the content for that. It's going to be a great event. It's two days. It's going to be packed full of what have we all learned in the last 2 years, what are the opportunities there. I've seen some of the submissions, they're incredible.